a baby joining us today. Hi, how's it going? So, today I was looking through my bookshelves and I was like, I don't want some of these on my shelves anymore. And so we have a book unhaul, a staple of BookTube. Something in our little goblin brains just wants to see what other people have and what they're throwing away. Not that I'm throwing these away. That is supremely wasteful. But I saw this idea from Emmie on YouTube. I will link the video down below, or the 2 videos I think it is, where she takes the book that she doesn't want anymore and just goes around to the little free libraries around her area and just deposits some books, takes some that she might be interested in, and I think I want to do that to these books in another video, so hopefully that comes soon. Can't promise you on that. Especially with new people coming to a platform, it is so common to have sparse uploads, just because it's hard to get into the groove of that thing, right? But I do want to do that and have like a day of it, because doesn't that seem just like so fun? If you have a book that you don't want, look up in your area like little free libraries around me. Online there is an interactive map and it shows everyone that is in your area. Very useful tool, awesome date idea, awesome self-date idea, just awesome day. Super non-wasteful, very good. I have about 13, unlucky number 13, books that I want to give away. And most of them are from classes that I don't take anymore. Like just books you had to read that I probably won't ever read again, because for whatever reason, I will probably mention whenever I show them off. Alright, I am rambling. Some of these are quite popular, especially in like BookTube spaces, and if I happen to unhaul a book that you like really like and covet and think is the best thing ever written, no harm done. Either I just didn't enjoy it as much, or I don't see myself rereading it in the future, and I'm happier with it gone to somebody else who might enjoy it more. Yeah, so without further ado, I think I'm gonna get into a pretty controversial one. At least it would have been like a few years ago. It was when this entire series was really, really popular, and that is the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. There are 3 in this series. I bought them years ago because I saw them on BookTube and I was like, oh wow, those look great, I'd love to read them. I was in my like YA kick, my YA era, you could say. And I was like, oh my god, yeah, a mystery. If you don't know what the Truly Devious series is about, it is basically a crime story that is kind of dark academic, so if you're into that, maybe I'd recommend this book. But it follows the main character Stevie. We follow the main character Stevie as she tries to solve a crime that happened in like 1920s at this academy that she goes to. While at the same time there is another mystery going on in her time. So it's kind of like a dual timeline plot. I thought they were good. I read all of them, so it had to keep me going, you know, somehow. But I just don't see myself rereading them, especially because it is a mystery. I know what happens, and personally, I just felt that it was pretty... I don't know, I felt like I kind of figured it out by the second book. I was like, okay, I know what happens. Done. So, yeah, wasn't my quite cup of tea, but if you're into like the dark academia genre, as well as like mysteries and YA, maybe this is for you, and I'd highly recommend it, and maybe look around your local book boxes for them. Alright, next up is The Alisawa Murders by Riku Onda. As far as I know, oh wow, you can see all my class notes in there. Obviously before I take them to the library, I'm gonna take those out. But, as far as I know, Riku Onda is a pen name for the actual author, and similarly, this is also a mystery. A few of these books on here are like crime mysteries, just because that was the course I was taking. But I read them for the school class. I read these books and this book and some other books for a class, and I just don't see myself reading them again. They were on a syllabus. I read them. They were okay. They were good for a class material, you know, but I just probably won't see myself rereading this one either. What this one is about is a crime that is committed in the 1970s to like a family, a well-known family in Japan, and the murder and the solving of the murder is kind of told in different accounts of what happened that day. If anybody has heard of In a Grove by, oh my gosh, what is that author? He also wrote Rashomon. He's so supremely popular, and his name is, like, escaping me at the moment, but him. It's very reminiscent of In a Grove by that author. If you're into that style of writing, I'd say go for it. For me, I can't really follow something if I don't have a character I can really follow. So for that reason, it wasn't really a hit, as well as just the nature of the solving of the crime and who ended up being responsible. It was kind of said, like, in the beginning. And so it wasn't really satisfying to me personally to, like, figure out who did it, because they said it at the beginning of the book. And I was like, okay, alright, so we're doing that then. Alright, next one is The Man Who Smiled by Henning Mankell. Again, this was for my crime class. It follows a man who does a crime and a man who solves the crime. This one, though, actually kind of cool, because it had like a very dark, gritty, noir aesthetic, which is something that we studied and touched on. And I really like that. That aspect of it was super, super cool, just the atmosphere of this small Swedish town. But I have so many other books on my bookshelf that I'd rather read. So I want to get to those, right? I have other things I want to read. I just don't want this taking up space on my shelf. Not that it's that much space, but, you know, as if you have a bookshelf or you own books, you know that every spot kind of matters. And so I want to have my bookshelf curated to things I like and things I want to read again. And The Man Who Smiled just doesn't fit that. For one, this is like a series. And for my class, we read like this one, which I think is number 4 in the series. And like, that was a weird choice. I'm probably not going to read the other ones. And I'm not going to read this one again. Alright, another one that I probably won't read again is Lagos Noir. It, again, for my crime fiction class, we read, like, just different stories from this book, and they were cool. I love learning, about crime. That's not right. It was a cool class to learn about and to read, but it's like a ton of short stories, and I'm not gonna read them again. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna read them again. It was for a class, and you know what? If someone else who's really interested in Nigeria or crime, or Nigerian crime, this would be a fantastic book for you. Again, it's noir literature. It's dark, it's gritty, it's noir. And for one, it was really interesting to see noir in a non-American, non-Western setting. Because, at least for me personally, growing up in the West, we only saw noir like Blade Runner and, you know, things like that, where it's just like white people doing crimes and being cool. And so to see like Nigerian noir and Nigerian authors writing about the noir genre, that was super cool to see, and hopefully someone who picked this up in their local book box will see that and will be like, oh my god, wow, this is so cool. Next up, from my crime class. Say it with me, everybody. This book is from my crime class. It is The Devotion of Suspect X by Kigo Higashino. And I know I made a video on like how I recently read this, Again, it was for my crime class. I'm not gonna reread it. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna reread it. I know what happens. I know the how the investigation works. I know the crime. I know everything. I'm not gonna read it again. I thought it was a good book. I think, honestly, if you read this for the first time, it's pretty good. It is very much like a yandere trope. If you guys are not familiar with like what a yandere is, it's basically like a lover who is so obsessed with, you know, who they admire that they are willing to commit crimes or kill or hurt for them. Sometimes it's, you know, protecting them. Other times it's kind of malicious. But if you are interested in that trope, definitely maybe read this one. It's kind of cool. Not the, like, it's a cool story, but murderers are not cool, so. Anyways. Ooh! That's good. If anyone wants a good tea recommendation, butterscotch chai from David's Tea. It's perfect. And especially when it's hot and cold, fantastic. Is this the last one? No, it's not. Second to last one from my crime class is Black Dahlia by James Ellroy. Did not like this one. This one sucked, actually. So if you guys don't know the actual real-life case of the Black Dahlia, it is harrowing and gruesome and just, like, awful. But what James Ellroy did was take the actual real-life victim of the Black Dahlia case and made, like, a noir book based off of her, and she, like, is, I mean, this one made me mad. In the beginning, she is just seen as, like, a whore. And, like, they talk so badly about this girl, when, like, in real life she was murdered. Like, this girl was murdered in real life, and James Ellroy is like, yeah, let's just, like, make fun of her for an entire novel. What? That's not right. And I hated this book, did not finish it. This book fucking sucks. I hate it. And even if she gets redeemed, I don't care. I hate this book. Yeah, next one is Bluebird by Attica Locke. Again, it was for my crime class. This one actually, compared to the other ones, I found really interesting. Oil and Water by Helen Habila is the other one that we read for that class that I just found profoundly interesting, and I was like, okay, this one slaps. I did not finish this one. I just wrote about what I had to for an essay, because the course is coming to an end, and I was dead. So, I did not finish this one. I'm probably not going to, because I'm not going to. I don't want to. If you don't know what Bluebird is about, it is about a crime that is committed in Texas, I believe, and it is really racially motivated, and a lot of the book has themes about race, like especially Black people and their relation to the police, and how awful the police can be to Black people. Interestingly, we do follow a Black sheriff in this town, but a big theme is like the people in their relation to the police and how corrupt the police force is. And I thought that was really important to read about. Obviously, stories like that are supremely important to read about. And if you want to read more about those types of stories and those types of themes surrounding police brutality, I would recommend Bluebird. Again, I didn't finish it. It was for a class. So, hopefully the next person who gets it really likes it. So, that is the end of books that I needed for class. And these are just ones that I don't want anymore. Because I bought them for enjoyment, and I don't need them anymore. This one, I lied, I didn't buy. This one I got for free from my library at school. Obviously I'm not going to say the library or show the back of this that says the school that I'm from. But that is Anxious People by Frederick Backman. From what I do know, he did write A Man Called Ova. Unless I'm totally wrong with that, and the covers just look similar to me. But I think he wrote A Man Called Ova, which is supremely popular. I hear it's very good. This has been on my bookshelf probably since I started going to school at my college. And I'm not gonna read it. I'm sorry. I took it and I was like, ooh, a book. I love books. I love that. I'm gonna take it. I'm not gonna read it. I'm sorry. It's just, it feels like Normal People to me by Sally Rooney. And oh yeah, I was right. It is the author of A Man Called Ova. This book feels like Normal People to me, and maybe it's because it's called Anxious People, and, you know, you can see where I think that, right? And Normal People doesn't really interest me. No hate to Sally Rooney, maybe, I don't know anything about her. But I'm not gonna read it. It's kind of long. I'm not gonna read it. I'm sorry. But it is a hardback, so whoever gets this, y'all getting a hardback. Next is kind of controversial as well, because I think people like this book. And that is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. Or Natasha Nyan. And I recently read this because, you know, I finished Gideon the Ninth. I finished Last Night for the Telegraph Club, and I want more lesbians. I want more lesbian fiction. I'm a lesbian, I want lesbian fiction. Is that so hard to ask for? No. So I read Girls of Paper and Fire. I've had it on my bookshelf for a little bit. I was feeling in a YA mood, and I was like, yeah, this is perfect. And I read it, and I didn't like it. Trigger warning for this book for themes of SA and R word, like multiple instances of R word and SA, and like an entire book surrounding SA and R word, which obviously is important to have discussions about, but if you don't know what you're getting into, I will say don't read it without checking the trigger warnings. Nothing is really like all that graphic, but I mean, it's the entire book is just a discussion around these topics, so caution yourself. But Girls of Paper and Fire is basically a sapphic YA love story book about these paper girls who are basically concubines to the king, who are brought in from different parts of this fantasy world, and they're kind of like trained to be court women, but really they are just concubines for the king. And I originally read this because I was just brought in by the sapphic story, which I think a lot of readers are, and I think it is important to have this story, especially because it is from a Vietnamese, I believe, author, and the fantasy is inspired by Asian like cultures and landscapes and everything, from East Asia to even like India and South Asia. So that is super cool, and I think we should need more of that in fantasy and YA especially. But I just think the actual writing didn't do anything for me. I thought the relationship was kind of insta-lovey. So it just wasn't personally my thing. If it is yours, look around. I think this definitely has some merit for people who are interested in these kinds of stories. For as much as I know, it is going to be a series, or if not, the books are already out altogether. Maybe it already is done and is a series, I'm not sure. I've had this, again, for ages. Yeah, that's Girls of Paper and Fire. I think I gave it like a 3. It was okay. Last but not least, I think, is, again, a popular one, at least it was a few years ago, and that is the first 2 books of the Raven Cycle by Maddie Stiefvater. I thought they were okay. I remember I first read The Raven Boys, the first one, and I was like, I don't really care for it. I thought the story was fine. Again, it's really predictable. Like, I knew who did the thing, if you know what I'm talking about. Like, pretty much immediately. And I was like, oh yeah, it's this person. Or it's, you know. And so that made, you know, part of the plot kind of redundant to me. And I was like, okay, I've solved it, it's done. But what kept making me turn the page was the atmosphere that Stiefvater has created, like, in this little town, which I think is awesome. And I think, like, the depiction of Blue, who is the main character, and her family, and how their house looks, and the things that Blue wears, I just think it's so, like, eclectic and such a cool vibe. But it's not enough to keep me for, like, a 4-book series. That's the same thing with the Dream Thieves. We follow a character who I more so care about in the second one, Ronan. He was my favorite character of all of this. But I don't see myself reading the next 2 books because I like the atmosphere and not because I like the actual story or really am attached to any of the characters. Yeah, basically the Raven Cycle, if you haven't heard of it yet, because again, it was supremely popular on BookTube a few years ago. It is basically about these 4 like pretty wealthy boys, teenage boys, who become friends with this girl named Blue and her psychic family, and they are basically trying to find ley lines to wake up an old Welsh king and like find his sleeping dead body. And I think if they find him they'll get a wish, but I'm not sure on that. I don't really remember. Yeah, the actual premise is super cool. Like the idea of like you and your buds going out to like magic forests and talking to ghosts and stuff to find a dead Welsh king. That's so cool. That is an awesome premise. I just thought the actual story didn't really deliver for me personally. But again, I know people like will fight to the death for this series. Like One Look on Tumblr. People love this series. And if you do, that's awesome. I hope I am giving somebody else the opportunity to read these books, fall in love with these books, buy the other half of the series if they want, or hunt down some other little libraries to hopefully find it. Yeah, they were okay. This is not my cup of tea. They are so many other people's cups of tea though. So, if you haven't tried the Raven Cycle, maybe you would fall in love with it and love it. And that kind of goes the same for all these books. They weren't my cup of tea, or I already read them and I don't see myself rereading them again. But that doesn't mean they're... I just dropped all the books on the floor, like out of their pile. Just because I don't necessarily want to keep these books doesn't mean that inherently they're bad or like my opinion is right and everyone else is wrong. No, that's not what I mean. These are just books that I have that I just don't see myself reading anymore. Again, that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means I'm not interested. Yeah, if you've liked any of these books and you have them on your bookshelf and you want to scream at me and say, oh my god, you need to keep those, they're so good, you just need to wait until da-da-da-da-da, you can do that. If you want to give me other book recommendations that you think are really good, or give me your favorite book that you think I should read next, also let me know. I love reading the comments and seeing like what people say and like replying. It's so fun. I love the community aspect of that, especially on YouTube. Yeah, that's about it. Hopefully I will have a video up of me going to these little book boxes and delivering these books, hopefully getting new ones, but hopefully giving these away most of all. I have so much to read already. It's like, oh my god. But yeah, that's gonna be it from me and my cat, who has been here the whole time. Oh, there she is. She's sleeping on my lap, so. Very cute. Alright, that's it for me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.